world, it's Carole from Viva Vacation, and I'm super excited for today's podcast. I'm joined by three special people, Celine Benoit, Jean-Francois and Magalie, who have just returned a few weeks ago from a trip of a lifetime to the French Polynesian Islands. So let me start by asking you, have you returned from Cloud 9 yet?
Not yet for me.
Yeah, for me, I had, because when the trip ended, I had something planned just a couple of weeks after, right? Which was super fun. I just got back from that trip. Celine and I, we always try to have something planned ahead, right? So
that's very smart.
Yeah.
What about you, Magalie?
I have returned as well, but it took a few weeks. I was really on Cloud 9 for a few weeks, even working.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. This is the best way to work.
Yeah.
So I'd like to give listeners a summary of your trip before we get into the nitty-gritty details. So first of all, you flew to San Francisco, where you spent a few days to start your vacation. And I think you did this to split the total flight time in two, giving you time to adjust to the time difference rather than flying directly to your destination. And of course, when it's very far, sometimes you get there and you're exhausted right at the start of your vacation. So that was a super smart decision doing that. After that, you flew to Papeete in Tahiti. You spent a few days there exploring the island before embarking on a 7-night Paul Gauguin cruise around the French Polynesian Islands. During your cruise, you stopped on 4 different islands that included Bora Bora, Hua Hin, Tahas, and Moorea. Not sure if I pronounced all of those right, but I tried. Yeah. And then to top it all off, you spent the last week of your vacation in Moorea in one of those beautiful overwater bungalows that we've all seen pictures of online. I'm super jealous of you guys. So what an amazing trip this must have been. Did I sum it up correctly?
Very well.
Yes, you did, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So now let's get into the details of your trip. So first question, I'll start by asking each of you what your favorite island was and why.
For me, it was Moorea, if I'm pronouncing that right. Why? I think it was one of the bigger islands. Maybe not, but from what I read, it was one of the bigger islands. The views were super nice, super easily accessible as well. We had a car rental, and it was much more to see, right? There was a lot more stuff to do as well. All your activities centered. We did some excursions, jet ski rentals, ATV rentals, snorkeling, boat tours, all from that island.
Wow.
So we had a lot of options, and that was for me. Plus we stayed there at the Hilton. Super beautiful water. Can't complain, right? For me, it was by far the best island there, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, the pictures you showed me were like amazing.
Yeah.
What about you, Magalie?
The same, actually. I have 2 favorite ones. I can't really decide. But Moorea, for sure. The mountains were gorgeous. Really rugged, really like sharp points and gorgeous views. And the lagoon was amazing. I think it's probably some of the best snorkeling in the world. And I absolutely love snorkeling, and I snorkeled every day I could, many times. Unfortunately, I got sick, so I wasn't able to do all the adventures I wanted to do, but it's just a reason to go back. But also, I really loved the private island on the Paul Gauguin cruise, which was on the Taha, a private motu on the Taha island. And when I got off the boat, I started crying because it was just so beautiful. Just like a dream come true, and amazing snorkeling right off that little private island. So it was really amazing. Yeah.
So I'm not a snorkeler myself, but I know we have a lot of clients who are. So what made it special, the snorkeling?
Well, a lot of coral, and you could see, like I saw some black tip sharks. They're called black tip reef sharks, I believe. Some eels, some moray eels, saw some clownfish in their little anemone, saw a bunch of different tropical fish, some spotted eagle rays, just stingrays. Anyway,
Lots of variety.
And beautiful colors, and they're everywhere. So you don't have to look very far to see some beautiful fish. And
Cool. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Celine, what about you? Your favorite island?
The same as Jean-Francois and Magalie. I think Moria, for me anyway, I love hiking. I love like activities, and I feel that island offered a lot of diversity of activities that we can do, as well as a private island. We were celebrating our birthdays, me and Magalie's husband, that day. So it was a very special day, and they served us like kings and queens, and we even had like a little cat like following us sometimes, and it was very nice and a very special day.
Oh, so happy to hear that. So talking about the cruise itself, you decided to book with Paul Gauguin Cruises, and it permitted you to visit like all the islands rather than kind of do a flight in between the islands. So it was a different way to see them all. What did you think of that cruise? I'll start with you, Jean-Francois.
Yeah, so as we cruised a lot, Celine and I. This was our 15th cruise, I believe. And it was much smaller. So we cruise a lot with Norwegian. We've cruised with Princess, which is awesome companies. But Paul Gauguin is so much smaller. You had 200 guests, about
250.
250 guests, and there was as much staff that there was as guests.
Okay.
So you were always taken care of very well. There was always staff when you needed them. You didn't have to look around too far. It was super privatized as well. I don't know if that's the right word, but
Personalized.
Personalized.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Personalized. Mm-hmm. We walked into the dining room, and they knew exactly where you wanted to sit, who you wanted to have as a waiter, and what you wanted to drink, your morning coffee. They knew our names. We knew their names. And that was my favorite part. So Paul Gauguin really exceeded my expectations when it comes to that.
To the service.
100%. 100%. And I think it was refurbished just a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So it was very clean. The furniture, the decors, I don't know if that's the right word, but it was up to date. Very nice. Yeah. For me, it was a smaller ship, so you could feel a lot more the waves.
Right.
But I would never let that disappoint me to go back, right?
Right.
And you were limited in the amount of activities to do on the cruise.
Right.
Like obviously there's no arcades, and there was only, I love karaoke. So there was only the one time that you could do karaoke throughout the week, right? Okay. But the staff did tell us so many times, if you want to go to the front desk and ask, they might accommodate you. But that just goes to show you how they're willing to work with the customers. Okay. At the end, we didn't get to do that. We didn't ask. We could have, but we didn't. But for me, Paul Gauguin, that's what I liked the most. How personal it was, and how professional, kind of fancy as well, right? So you had all the extra, like the food was awesome.
Yeah, it was
probably by far the best food that I've eaten on cruise ships, and usually I love the food on cruise ships. So you can just imagine how very good it was.
Yeah.
And obviously it's stress free. You don't have to buy a drinking package or a fancy drink package. Everything is included. Right? So
peace of mind.
Exactly. Right? You jump on and you don't have to worry about, well, am I going to get charged extra dollars for that? No, everything is 100% included.
Perfect.
Right? Yeah.
Perfect. What about you, Magalie?
For me, it was actually our first cruise ever.
Oh my.
So we were told by Celine and JF that, we're starting way up there. But we really enjoyed it. The service, like he said, was really excellent. I really liked that we would travel to different islands overnight. Yeah. So basically, we didn't waste any time because the time we would have been, it's dark there around 6, probably close to year round, maybe a little later sometime. But So when it's dark, you travel and you kind of sail out when it's still a little light and you see the sunset. Oh my God. The sunsets behind the islands or gorgeous views we saw sailing out every night. So it was a really good experience. I think it was a really great way to visit all the different islands. And it made you visit islands that maybe you would have not necessarily thought of visiting.
Yep.
And I'm really glad we did because I really liked, like even Huahine, or Huahine, I don't know how you say it properly. I would have never thought of going there. And it was really a great experience and a very nice location as well. So really every aspect of the trip with the Paul Gauguin, I mean, booking excursions and going to dinner, like we always had the same waiters, and every time they'd see us it was a big hello, and they'd teach us, a lot of them were Filipino, so they'd teach us some Philippine words, and anyway, we had a lot of fun and they made our trip really special as well. And the Gauguins, which are the team as well that do a lot of the activities, and they often sing, and they were really fun as well and made the trip even more special because every time you'd arrive at a port, they'd be there to greet you with their little music and singing, and it was really beautiful. And I'm sure that kind of helped make me cry on the Taha Island because it was like just a dream come true.
Perfect. Celine?
I think they summarize it very well, but for me, it's really the service. We've been cruising a lot, but I feel like I got escorted to my room the first day. I never had that experience before. They also have activities like water activities on board, so you can rent paddleboard, kayaks. So in Huahine, we rented kayaks and we went for a little kayaking, all the groups, and we saw fishes, and we went into a lagoon and so on and so forth. So it was great to know that we had that option. They were giving snorkel and fins to all the guests that you can check out for the week, so you don't have to bring your own from home. And you stayed 2 nights in one night in Bora Bora, so you had 2 days in Bora Bora and 2 days in Moorea.
Okay.
Which was great because those are the most popular place in the French Polynesian islands. So.
Okay. So there's a few things you told me when you came back, and I was surprised as well as you guys were, I guess. So you told me that the size of the cabins actually surprised you in comparisons to the Norwegian and the other one. So maybe it was bigger than you expected. Is that a fair?
Yeah, it wasn't a lot bigger, but it was bigger than we expected because it's a smaller ship, right? So you would think it's at least the same size room or maybe a little bit smaller. But I felt that it was a little bit bigger than what we normally get on a regular Norwegian, like we've done most times. And plus in the bathroom, the tub, it wasn't just a shower, there was an actual tub.
Oh wow, that's a luxury.
That's a luxury.
Which it was our first time seeing that on a cruise ship, right? And we were not expecting that.
Oh, good.
But
The other thing you told me was the age range. I think you were expecting the age range to be much higher than it was, but you felt like the majority of the guests or a lot of the guests were in your age range.
Well, we made friends with most of the ship. A lot of Canadian, a lot of American, Australian, and all. Because of the proximity of the country. But we saw a lot of honeymooners, families, and we were not the youngest people on the ship. So that we seen very early on, even before embarking the ship, actually. So it was nice. We made friends with people from Alberta and people from Florida. And it's such a small ship. So you came to know, you see all the same faces everywhere.
Yeah, and you connect with people more than on the big ships where, you might see someone twice.
Exactly, because you see them all the time. And very good point. I mean, sometimes we meet people on Norwegian. First day you meet them, you don't see them again after that at all, right? And you're looking for them, right?
Yeah.
When on Paul Gauguin, we would see them all the time, right? In the hallways, in the cafeteria, on the deck. So that's why we made some good friends, right? So,
Yeah, might make it a little bit more difficult if you're trying to avoid somebody.
No.
No, I'm sure you could.
You could, yeah.
Yeah, you could
Find it
be private if
Yeah.
you really wanted to. I'm
Okay.
sure, but yeah.
Yeah.
Celine, you mentioned to me as well that you felt that the French Polynesia was a bit different than Hawaii in some ways. You felt it was maybe a little bit more authentic. Can you explain to me what you meant by that?
We're a big fan of Hawaii, me and Jean-Francois. So I was comparing French Polynesia a lot to Hawaii because it's in the same time zone, like the same kind of climate, and so on and so forth. And for sure, I would say that French Polynesia is more authentic. I feel Hawaii is more like Americanized.
Right.
A lot of like you see as much Hawaiian than people that migrate to Hawaii.
Right.
There, I would say that it was 80% Tahitian and maybe 20% like people who went and moved from other countries. So,
Okay.
Which is very difficult to move there, I heard. So I think we felt more like the culture than like in Hawaii. The food too, it was very different. Like a lot of poisson cru, a lot of fish, a lot of seafood, a lot of like fruits that we were stopping by the road and buy some fruit and there were big fish to buy as well.
Things you wouldn't find at Sobeys.
Probably not. So no, it was very interesting to see their culture and they're French. So just and sometimes we're saying that they were saying words like us Acadian.
Right.
So it was very like, oh, what did you say?
Yeah.
So it was not easier to communicate because we're fully bilingual, but I feel that it was great to talk in our first language for us. We're French, so a very different experience in Hawaii, I would say.
Yeah, made you connect.
Yeah, exactly. If I may add to that as well, what I enjoyed the most is, like Celine said, we very love Hawaii. But in Hawaii, you get to Honolulu, which is awesome, but it's big skyscrapers and you get big buildings. You got a McDonald's. You got all your North American restaurants. Where there you don't have that, right?
Okay.
You get the one McDonald's, I think, and we went a few times because we are familiar with the McDonald's, right? But other than that, it's all local mom and pop shops type of thing. That's their food, and people appreciate that more because it's more authentic, right?
Right.
And but I enjoyed actually. Magalie and Pierre did stop on the side of the road to buy some fruits, and here it's so expensive to buy
Mangoes,
and coconuts. It's like $10-15 here or whatever, but there it was just $2 or $3,
and
right?
a weird fruit we didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Was it good?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously, anything that's picked off a fruit tree is going to be way better than something that's been picked off and then traveled for a week.
Yeah.
You know,
for
it's
sure.
picked
It's
not
fresh.
ripe. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was delicious.
And I just wanted to add, I think like when you think about French Polynesia, you think about it's like very expensive. But we did grocery, like we stayed in Airbnbs in some places, and it was not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
We like were surprised how much it was not that expensive.
Yeah, because Hawaii is expensive.
Yeah, it
Very
is.
expensive.
Yeah, and even like if you eat in a resort, that's true, it's expensive. But the minute you go out of the resort, it's not that expensive. So
Okay.
I feel that you can have you can go there on a budget and you can do it like 100%, like go all out. So you can go there with different needs, I would say.
Okay.
And budgets and have a great vacation.
Great. So I'm going to ask each of you to highlight your one favorite activity.
Okay, for
Magalie,
me, it was anything including snorkeling, which I think the best snorkeling I probably did was the lagoon tour that we did with the Paul Gauguin, and it was in Moorea. And it was going between, there's a few little motus in Moorea, not a whole lot, but it was in between two motus, and there was a lot of coral there, and it was some really good snorkeling. The further out you went towards the ocean, which there was a breakwater, the more coral you'd see, and it was just like, oh, okay, when you start snorkeling, it's like the countryside where there's a few fish and a few coral, But as you would get closer, it's like a metropolis. There was
Oh,
these
wow.
big corals, and like I'm sure everywhere I looked, there was at least 60 fish. Like it was incredible. And saw my first black tip reef sharks there. Got a little scared because I was not expecting it, and they were bigger than I expected. But it was, I mean, they didn't come close to me. They ignore you. They're not a threatening shark, I guess, in a way. But it was definitely probably my favorite experience. Other than that, we did some swimming with the whales that I did as well. But I think that was scarier in a way, but it was a great experience. But I prefer snorkeling for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you snorkeled with the sharks, you're definitely braver than I am. Celine.
For me, like the private island that we did with Paul Gauguin, for me was one of my best day. I think we were such on a high, and it was such a nice day, and you cannot be stressed there. It's such a relaxing place. The culture is relaxed. Even like I even say that the stray dog are relaxed. So because there's such a lot of stray animals, and everything, like everybody seems to be like so like laid back and relaxed. I really love like the whale tour. For me, I'm a huge fan of anything on back whales. I didn't go swim with the whales because I was not a good swimmer, but it blew my mind, like the show that we had even on the ship. Like, so I really loved that, and the jet ski, obviously, and I'm sure JF's gonna say jet ski because he loved it.
Yeah.
So my turn. Actually, that was probably not my favorite thing.
Really?
Yeah. So I was just looking on Google Maps. They're trying to get the name and that road that cuts through the island. What do you call that?
I don't remember. Tahupu is the wave.
Yeah.
So essentially, there's an excursion that we had booked through a third party company, and there's a truck that picks you up, and there's an open top, so you can stand in the back or you can sit, right? So it goes around the island of Tahiti, and there's private roads that's in the middle of the valley, I guess, and there's a tunnel in there as well, and they stop every interesting viewpoints and stuff like that, and they focus on telling stories about how they communicated, like hitting a tree, right? There was a rock hitting a tree. It kind of like Morse code.
Okay.
It signaled that there was enemies coming, but we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of years ago, right? So there's a call sign as well. There was also a big coquillage. Conch.
It was a shell, but it's a conch.
Like a shell, yeah. So there was another way of communicating, and when he blew it in that conch, sorry, thank you, you could hear it echo for 10, 15 seconds, right?
Okay.
Super impressive. But the view is there. You're so isolated. You're driving on side of the cliffs and stuff like that, right? Like for me, the views were awesome.
Okay.
I did enjoy the jet skis as well, and the ATVs, which was in Maria, and it was a third party company as well. But you visited pineapple company or plantations,
Yeah.
and they tell you like different stories about some gods and like old story tales and stuff like that, which made it really interesting. And they really focus on explaining the culture, the French Polynesian culture, essentially. So super impressive, yeah.
Wow.
But that was probably my two highlights, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Very, very different highlights. Makes it very interesting.
Yeah.
You did stay the last week in an overwater bungalow. Not a lot of people get to experience that. So talk to me a little bit about that. I'm jealous.
Exceed my expectation by far. I was so excited. It was so what, like I was imagining, like even the first day, Jeff is not a good swimmer, but the first day he woke up and you went in the water.
It was like 5 a.m. actually. Because
we were jet lagged still, and it was such like a above expectation kind of experience.
Yeah.
So what it is, it's we stayed at the Hilton. So there's a few of them on the island, but there's some few that closed as well. So for whatever reason, so you check in. It's very strict. You can check in early to to use the gym, and you can use your showers and stuff like that. Get ready, but you cannot go into your room before 3. I think it was right, or 3 or 4, whatever. So so basically, you walk in. There's a big like a how do you call it? Like a patio, I guess you follow, like a path.
A pat, yeah.
Which is all your buildings.
Right.
There must have been like 100 buildings or 75 buildings. There's a lot of them, right? What they call the bungalows.
Yep.
So, and then they're all numbered, and you walk in. There's a big bathroom on your right. I think they were all the same. I would dare say that they're all the same. Big bathroom with a soaker tub, walk-in shower. And it's all open. There's like no walls between the bathroom and the where you sleep. So basically,
there's a curtain.
Yeah. There's a curtain that you had the option to pull down or whatever, right?
Okay.
But it's still divided. But anyways, and then in the living room where there was a sofa, there was also a glass bottom floor,
Oh, wow.
which during the night, because the fish and the stingrays and the sharks are attracted to light.
Right.
So there was a switch that you could turn on and off, but we would leave on ours on all the time. So in the middle of the night, whatever, we could see the fishes, big fishes as well, right?
Wow.
And then obviously you got your private patio. If I may make a suggestion, if somebody wants to book those overwater bungalows, to get the view facing
The mountains.
west,
Yeah.
which is the view of the mountains. Some people did not think of that, and they would get views of either just the ocean, which is very beautiful, but you didn't get to see the mountains. Or some other views, you would just see other bungalows.
Right.
Which is, some people, I spoke to some people, say, oh, I wish I would have known, I wouldn't have stayed there. But they just because they wanted a nice view, right? But Celine and Magalie thought of that. I didn't, right?
Yeah.
So, but 100%. It
Wow.
was probably one of the fanciest hotels or rooms that I've ever stayed in.
Wow.
And yeah. I would do it again anytime.
Yeah.
If I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, the views of the mountain was one of the cheaper options to get. And we wanted the view of the mountains because we knew that those mountains were really magnificent. And here, I mean, we see the ocean. I mean, it's beautiful, but it would be something different for us.
Yeah.
But it was amazing for me. It was definitely a bucket list thing to stay in an overwater bungalow. And at the Hilton Maria specifically, it's known to have the best snorkeling, and the lagoon is protected. So it's really nice for snorkeling. And that's where I saw the moray. Oh my God, I'm going to say the moray eel. It's the moray eel. I saw a few times, and the spotted eagle rays, which were really nice, and clownfish with their anemones. We saw
a lot
quite
of
a
Nemos.
few.
A lot of Nemos.
And the water was extremely clear. Like, we would just stand on our deck or look down on our, the window that's in our living room, and you could see clearly the fish. Like, I was often just taking videos with my cell phone of the fish in the water from the gazebo, from the deck or whatever, and you could see them very, very well. It was really fun. Yeah, it was definitely, I would go again.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, it's an expensive experience, but I think if you do other things that are less expensive and you save maybe 2 nights there, it's really, really worth it. And I don't think I would ever skip it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think like we had the sunset view as well. So every night we were getting around like our decks, and we were looking at the sunset every night at 6 before going for supper. And it was like, oh my God, what a dream.
Yeah. Pays to do your research, eh?
Yeah, it pays. Yeah. And thank you to Magalie. She told about it before everybody else. So
So the last question I'll ask you, so if somebody is listening and contemplating wanting to do a similar trip, any advice you'd have for them?
Do it.
Nike, just do it.
Exactly. No, I think it would be that, right? I mean, You won't regret it. It can be a little bit more expensive than going to Cuba or going to Mexico, but it is worth it to make the. It's a long flight, rightfully so, and like you said earlier in this session, we went to San Francisco. Take the time to do that if you don't want to get too tired.
Yep.
To cut the trip in half, type of thing, or the hour exchange or whatever. But I would recommend for sure to go. You won't regret it. It's very beautiful. The beaches are super nice. The people are very friendly there.
They are.
Yeah, I think their main source of income is
tourism.
Tourism, yeah. And they rely a lot on the tourism, and I think they enjoy that, right? So
yeah.
And people are very, I'm repeating myself, but very friendly and welcoming as well. So that's what I have to say, anyways.
Perfect.
I think the biggest tip I would give someone is to not ignore the lesser known islands, because they're the ones that probably impress me the most. Just because Bora Bora was very nice and everything, but it's a lot more developed and not commercialized, but more developed, I guess, in a way. So, but the other islands are smaller, more authentic, and less populated and less developed, so they're really beautiful and more natural. And I just think people should not ignore those lesser known islands. I'm sure there's some, little golden secrets that we haven't discovered yet too, that we might have to go again and discover other islands, because there's so many in the French Polynesia.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like we love hiking, we love like doing activities outside the resort. And before, like a tip for me would be do your research on what kind of activity you like to do.
Yep.
Because not all islands offer the same type of activity.
Right.
For us, Moria met all our needs, but for some people, Bora Bora will meet all their needs, right? So if you like to stay on a resort, just go on the beach, but if you like to do hiking, you like to do a lot, a diversity of activities, maybe another island would be more fitting for you. So that would be my tip.
Good.
If I can add something to that, actually. So in regards to Bora Bora, everybody knows it as one of the most beautiful places in the world, and rightfully so. It was super amazing. When we got there on the Paul Gauguin, do your research before on the website, just to make sure that, because sometimes Paul Gauguin will bring you at their private motu, their private island, and sometimes they'll bring you on the main island and then drive you at no cost at a local beach. I think it was Madeira Beach or something? Madeira Beach,
yeah.
Which is very beautiful, but we were looking forward to going on the private motu.
Right.
We didn't know that. So before, if you're wanting to plan, maybe check with Paul Gauguin or your travel agent to see, can you check? And if it's closed that week for some reason, they can't bring you to the private island, and you want to get the private island life, make your research before so you can book at a private resort. Like for us, when we got
pass.
Yeah, exactly. So we had the option of going on a private resort like Intercontinental or other ones that I can't remember the name. Four Seasons, the Pearl.
Yeah.
But they were all full.
Yeah.
They all said if you would have booked a couple weeks in advance, we could have accommodated you, right? So the people that wants to go to Bora Bora while on the Paul Gauguin, if you want to see the view of Bora Bora from the Motu, make your research just a few weeks before, just to make sure, and hopefully you'll get to make it there. Right? That's what I would have to say as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast with me tonight and sharing your experience with our listeners. I think the French Polynesia just got bumped up on my own bucket list travel destinations. For our listeners out there, if you've been wanting to visit the French Polynesia for some time, or if our podcast has piqued your interest, I do want to highlight that Paul Gauguin Cruises does have a great sale on right now. However, if you'd rather visit the islands by land or inter-island flights, that is also an option, so please reach out to your Viva travel advisor to discuss the options. Until next time, Viva Vacation!